to the computer. All right. Well, happy International Scrapbook Day officially, everyone, even though we've been talking about that all day. But I am going to do a layout demo with you guys today. And I have created a sketch for us to use. The sketch itself is already posted in an album in the Scrap and Smile group. And I heard Tracy talking about it before, that it was tricky because she was using my email to try and search up the group, the Scrap to Smile, and this group is Scrap and Smile. And it's because Scrap and Smile, somebody already had that when I created my email. So that was funny for myself that I sort of have two different things going on there. But I was glad you found us, Tracy. And so the sketch is in the album. And then as you can see here, I have some like basic instructions. So this document is already ready to go. And after I'm done the demo, I'm going to upload this into the files section of the group. So anybody could access this and hopefully be able to print it off. I did it on Google Docs, but I think that it should open up as a view, and then you could just print it no matter which way it comes up on your computer. So if anybody does go to do that and runs into any problems, let me know, because then I can probably just try to like email it directly to you, or maybe I have to change the settings on the Google, like maybe it's going to come up private. Like I'm hoping somebody can test it out just to let me know that it works afterwards. So what I did is about, I don't know, February, I created this layout, and I feel like I'm far away today, farther away than I normally am, or closer in than I normally am. So you can't see the whole page. That means I have to figure out how to make my thing taller. I don't know if I know how to do that. Are you guys going to be able to handle that it's just a little bit zoomed in?
Yeah, it'll be good.
Okay, good. Because I don't want to bump my stand if I try to telescope it up. So, but I created this layout in February, and it's what I used to create the sketch. And this one uses two 3x4 photos. So then the layout I'm going to make today, I'm going to use 4x6 photos so that we can just, feature the photos a bit more prominently. So this is the overall vibe we're going for. Just going to see if I can get that up. Oh, everybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. As I like snapped my phone off the stand. Oh my goodness. There. That's better. Sometimes these stands creep me out. I'm always afraid I'm going to break my phone, when you're trying to like get them in. And I just snapped it like right out. Scared myself. Okay. So now that I didn't break anything, we can officially get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is have a base paper. So I'm using the Simply Stated collection today called I always get it messed up. Your Best Self. I always want to say the selfie collection because we get so used to saying selfies. So Your Best Self collection. And so I'm going to use this as my base paper. And then I have two 6x6 pieces that I have cut for the bottom. And when you're putting on these pieces, you could sand the edges. A lot of us like to ink the edges. I've been sanding a lot lately. I'm thinking that might be the route to go today. So I just put it on the edge of my counter. Probably should have done this before so you guys didn't have to listen to me do my edges. But I love the core white that comes through. So then you can just see that little bit of extra definition there. This is the part of demo sometimes that it's like my brain works where I think, oh, I should have done all this ahead of time. But then also it's good that like people, if they were playing along, like it gives time to work. And so it's like that catch 22 of sometimes knowing the best way to go about it. No right or wrong, really, just how my brain works.
And just always, because I mean, I'm relatively newer than a lot of you guys, and so there's some things that you guys know that I might not, right? So sometimes it's nice to show basic things that you maybe know.
That's good. That's always good to hear because I always think that too, that like there's always somebody who it's new for, right?
I'm super new.
And then you also, there's so many tips and tricks that we've known over the years for some of us that have done it a long time that you actually forget about. And then you'll see somebody do something. The other at Carnival, I did Doreen's like make and take table thing, and she showed how to tie a bow. And you know how like when you tie it in the strings, like the ends never go where you want them to go? And she tied it upside down and then turned it around and it was perfect. And I've never seen that before. And it was like my mind was blown. Okay. So I think when I measured these out, you could see when I cut them a little bit of teal. So I'm going to just be careful and get a little bit of that teal showing. Let me see. Which way do I want these? I feel like that way looks better with this off to this side. So I do like to use glue when I'm doing paper to paper. That just is what I like, but I know tons have the tape runners and different adhesives of choice. The only thing that makes me mad sometimes with the glue is when I try to photograph my layouts, the corners tend to curve up a bit. And then sometimes it drives me crazy because I'm trying to get an even picture in the photo and it makes for some adventures. I wish somebody could film me trying to take my pictures some days because I think I
Hack for
probably will.
that. I have a hack for that.
Okay, good.
Use the repositionable glue dots that aren't
Mm-hmm.
heavy and put them on the corners and just put it down and take your photo.
But okay, yes, I am going to try that actually. That's great. Sometimes the way my lighting is in my house, depending on the time of day that I have to take the photo, I
Mm-hmm.
have to prop it up
Yep. Do it
and
on a
look straight
mat. Do
across
exactly that on a mat and then prop the mat up.
and then prop the mat up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the glue dots. That's a good idea because sometimes I've tried a little bit of like adhesive or my adhesive tape and it's
Yeah.
almost not strong enough, but you're right, the glue dot would be just enough. That's more it's more tacky, right? In that corner.
Yeah. And then it's easier to remove too because it's just that
Yeah.
little spot and you just peel them up, right?
Just peel it. That the glue dot, that is a great idea.
No worries, friend.
See, that's why talking things through and process is also good because then
Right? Gotta have each other's backs.
right? Okay, so there now we have our two 6x6 pieces at the bottom of the layout. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some torn strips for the top and bottom. Now, when I created the original layout, I started with just one bigger, like torn piece at the top and bottom, and something seemed not right. And so then that's when I added the like polka dot, the darker polka dot piece, because I really needed I felt it needed something extra to frame it. So sometimes it's just a matter of playing around with the pieces you have and what's going to look the best for you. Now I've torn one piece, but I'm going to show how to tear just in case there is somebody who doesn't know, because as we were just talking about. But the good thing is if you cut your strips wider, it's easier to tear without like wrinkling your paper. So I do have some strips that are smaller, but then, you're trying to hold on and rip. And then sometimes I find like your paper bends. So with something like this, even if I don't decide I want it quite that wide, it's going to be very easy to trim off and make that a little skinnier if I would like that to be. So I'm just going to tear my pieces first and then play around with what looks best. So with this paper, it does have a white core. And oh, and to answer Tracy's chat question, no, you wouldn't have to use this paper. Like any paper you have, you just would need a base, and then you could cut like any two patterns to be these 6x6 pieces. So I'm using this collection, but you could use whatever fits your pictures. You do not have to have this collection at all. This paper has the white core. So if you tear, kind of lifting the edge up towards you with the pattern showing, then you get that white extra kind of border showing. Depending on the papers you have, like not every paper company, the core is white, but quite often if it's not, it will end up being like a lighter color. So a lot of cardstocks, if you tear, and it's like a red piece of paper, what you see will be almost a slightly lighter shade of the red that you see. And there are tools, like I know some of you probably have the rulers where you can kind of put them down and it has the different deckled edges, and then you can pull and it tears it. I've never been very good at those. I usually end up swearing at them. So I just tend to old school it. Okay, so that's going to be a piece that I had maybe for down there. Always love to find ways to add texture. And I go through phases. Like I used to ink everything. Like I know Paula, you ink so much, and I still do a lot of inking. But yeah, I found that I'm on a sanding kick lately where I have been sanding so much. So I think my initial idea when I was planning it, and I think I'll make that skinnier, but was to sort of do something like that. But I do like seeing a lot of these bottles. So that's where I think this piece I want to be skinnier. And then maybe I'll just end up doing one. So I'm going to try that first. Just going to cut it. Not going to pull my trimmer up for you guys. So I'm going to trim maybe like 1/2 inch. So I trimmed about 1/2 inch off. So in the end, right now, this piece is probably about 3/4 by 12. And let's see how that looks. I just play around a lot when I make my layouts just to sort of see what works best. See, I don't mind that, but I still find it kind of hides the bottles there. So I don't know. I might trim it more and maybe I won't end up putting anything on that one. So we'll try the top. That's the fun thing about sketches too, right? You can, have the sketch in front of you, but just because there's an element on the sketch doesn't mean you have to put that element on the sketch. It really is just meant to guide you. There's so many times that I start with a sketch idea or a photo, or I'm like scrap lifting, and it just gets me started. And then by the time I'm done, half the time it doesn't look anything remotely like the original because you've added more photos or different things like that. See, I really like that up there. Like, I'm really liking that vibe. So right now my instinct is kind of telling me to put the torn bits up at the top and then leave the bottom so that you see all this cool like stuff. So I'm thinking that's the way I'm leaning right now. So I'm going to commit. I'm going to glue these down. But often when I will glue textured pieces like that I've torn, I will glue along the straight edge, but I won't put glue all the way along the torn edge because maybe you'll tuck something, or it just even adds a little natural lift and texture. It's funny, when I was talking about the camera and like Jane, you were saying some things changed for Zoom. Like, I have my stand set like the exact same that I always have it. And like, I don't remember it being this zoomed in. So I feel like that maybe is a bit of a change.
There's a few changes in Zoom. I use it every week. Like,
Yeah. So,
and the mic and the camera has both been an issue.
yeah. So it's still nice and clear, but I think we'll have to, after this, I'll like heighten my stand a bit. Just because most times I'm doing it on Zoom. And then when I was getting ready to do my live for tomorrow on Facebook, I found that I could zoom in with my fingers, like on my camera, just like you would a normal camera view. So I think that'll be okay. I hope.
Could be.
But like you said, you just figure it out and you feel like you get good at something. And then it
I
changes.
love this page though.
Okay. So there we go. So now I've got that. So I'm digging that. Okay. I'll leave those other strips because I might end up wanting to still use them. Then for my photo mats, what I have suggested on the sketch, like, is to use two 4x6s. But as I mentioned, my original had the 3x4s. So you make it work for what you would like. And then I like to mat quite often just for extra. So I've got my photo mats here. So then I'm going to play around a little bit with them. And I didn't glue them down. So I think if I remember right, yes, these ones are 4x6. And then I thought I would just trim my picture a little bit smaller. And then I made the purple just a 1/4 inch bigger when I cut it. So it was 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And so I'll end up gluing those down onto each other. And then I'll just end up playing around with a little bit of overlap. So I'm going to do something kind of along the lines of that. Sort of centered in the page, my original. I kind of moved them off to the side a little. So I'll play around with that too. And then I have my photos, which I did pre-print. And also, even though I'm doing 4x6 photos, I printed on my selfie and I used the feature where you can print 3x4s on, like, they came out as one print, and I added a border, just the skinniest, so it automatically put a border. So now when I put the photos on, and that's where I will look and see how I did with my photo mat because I pre-cut them. So you can't see the gray too much, but I'll play around with it. Now I've got 4 photos. So even though I have a 4x6 spot, now I've got 4 3x4 photos. So just other ways to play around with how many pictures you're going to get on the page, which is something I tend to do a lot. So I'm just going to trim my photo just a little on the side. So the theme for Carnival, for those of you who were there or who might be going, this year was a spa theme. And so that's why I'm using this collection, because I felt like it was a great on-theme collection. And I would say I've been big on themes lately. Like, I think we used to do that so much with our scrapbooking. And then the trend, I feel, went away from that. And then now I kind of feel like some theming is back, but I always like to play around with the themes. So there, I just trimmed my photos a little skinnier. And I'll work on attaching those. And I trimmed a little bit too much. I'm just gonna sand the edges a little bit. Thicken up that white border. I'm an old school, so I know tape runners are faster, but with my photos, I still use the photo splits. I find they stick the best. I look back at my albums, things aren't falling off. So I think it's the one thing that I've truly never really changed from all these years scrapbooking. So I use the photo splits to attach it, and then I will use glue to stick that one down because it's paper to paper. Go. And my glue. What does everybody else tend to do for their photos? Are you a photo split person? Are you a tape runner? Do you have those big, what are those Scotch rollers, the jumbo things that are bigger than my entire face? Anybody use those?
I kind of use whatever's on hand.
Double-sided tape.
Double-sided tape for the most part, in whatever form it comes. Or foam dots.
Yeah, sometimes I'll use foam dots too if I'm raising things, my photos for sure.
I do double-sided tape or a tape runner. Normally.
Okay, there we go. All right, so now I've got my 2 mats. Oh my gosh, those are so fun. Jackie seriously is like the best at posing people. Oh, sorry for the glare with the photos, everyone. Okay, so now we get to play around a little. And this is the part where I'm going to play around a little. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, but then I won't necessarily fully tack everything down and complete it. I'll just take a photo after, but I can just kind of talk you through kind of the process. So when I often get asked, or people will tell me, like my mom or whoever will say, oh, like your clusters look so good, or how do you decide what to put on? And the true answer is I just play around with it. So I just will get out all the bits and pieces that go with the collection and just, or other collections, and just start playing around. And I'll often, kind of lay them out in piles. And if there's like things, I will keep those together. Like I'll separate all the journal tags and kind of put them all in one pile. So as you're playing around with what might look good, you can trade them in and out easily, and you're not sifting through all the different, pieces all at once. I know others, like, they'll just dump everything into one big container and sift through it. So everyone has their own kind of way. But I'll lay out all my pieces and kind of go from there. And I mean, gosh, this specific collection has more pieces than I know what to do with. So on the sketch, and then the original is I've sort of grouped items sort of in like a trio, because visual triangles are always good. So kind of like a cluster in and around the bottom of the photo here, then in and around the photo on the right here, maybe up a little bit higher so that it's not completely symmetrical, and then a cluster here near the bottom that I've added some journaling. And then on my original, and I might try to do it here too, I've been really big on adding little tabs to the top of my photos lately, just for an added kind of feature. And it almost makes it look like they might pull out, even though nothing does, but you could definitely do that. Like I've put hidden journaling behind photos that way before. So that's another cool thing. So here's my 3 clusters and with the journaling. So we'll just play around with some pieces till we're starting to get something that looks good. And then I will be able to finish it up and take a photo for everybody. It's so hard to decide. I definitely think I want the circle journaling piece. That's always my favorite. There's the running joke that I write novels on these these little circle pieces. Everybody always chuckles at me because they write like 5 words and I've written like a book somehow on it, but that's how I roll. I actually sort of hate journaling, but I try my best to get a little bit of the story on there. So yeah. There's so many pieces. See, this is the part where I'm like, oh, normally I would have picked out everything. And so I don't know. I might even just like put down a few things, even if it's not what I'm going to stick with, just to kind of give the idea. Like I feel like I have more space to overhang the photo. So something like that. tuck in behind. So notice I haven't actually stuck down my photos yet, because then that's going to give me a chance to move them around. And now just looking, like, I like the tags on there, but I definitely will probably sand the edges. And then because I left so much with the rip, like, I'll probably move the whole cluster down a little bit more so that the tabs are showing over the green. I don't know, I like the butterflies, but it doesn't fit the vibe as much. So I think I'm going to try to fit in some of these, like, bottles or something would be super cute to match down there. Be something like that. And so when I build my clusters, I just start, like, laying things out and tucking. And, like, let's say I get two pieces together that I'm like, oh yeah, I totally love that. Quite often I'll pinch my finger down and then I'll lift up. Like, I'm going to be committed, even if I don't end up using this exactly, just to show you. So I've kind of layered these. I'll pinch my finger down and then I just fold it up enough to tack a dot of glue that in theory I could pull back up if I hate it. And so now these two pieces are kind of stuck together and I already know that it looks good. Like, it's something that I like. So I do that a lot when I get a cluster I like. I just put those little dabs of glue and then you can add the extra dabs later. Or, oh, now I'm going to add a foam dot back here to pop this edge up. So I just kind of keep playing around with them all. So I don't really think everybody needs to watch me play around with all these pieces. But does anybody have questions on, like, clustering or doing that kind of stuff?
Clustering is very stressful for me, so I do it, but it's stressful.
Do you find that you change your mind a lot, Jane? Like, you think you get it and then you're like, oh, I don't know if I like it. And then you try, like, a different piece.
Yeah, I do. It's like there's too many choices.
Yeah, sometimes that's true, hey? Yeah, so I think, like, something along that line. Now, on my original, I had some little, like, text strips. So in the sketch, I suggest something like that. But that's because that's what I had with that collection. And I did like how I had some of this negative space on some of the photos, and it just, you still didn't really lose from the photos, but you could overlap and overhang a little bit more. But like I'm noticing with these photos, they take up much more of the space. So while this is a perfect fit, I'm not sure that I'll necessarily put, words in with every cluster because I don't know that it's going to look right. But I'll play around because there's some smaller ones. So it might work to, end up putting something like up here, something like that. So I think I'll just kind of play around, and then when I get everything attached, I will spotlight myself and show everybody, and then I'll take a picture and add it into the album that I started with the sketch. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you, Lindsay. I love the page.
That's fun, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those colors, the way they work.
I could not believe how, like, we really didn't plan it. Like, Jackie had all these kimono type things hanging there. And then when I laid it down with the paper, I couldn't believe how much of a perfect match they were. I was like, wow, okay. That couldn't have been any more perfect.
I was wondering how come everybody had sort of the same kimonos. I didn't go up there.
Yeah, she had a stash of like the headbands and then the mirrors, the props, and then there was some house coat type robe she had, and then these kind of silky ones. So it was fun. I'm gonna figure out how do I stop the recording. Stop.